What's up, y'all? What's up? I'm back, man. Y'all know it was a crazy day yesterday in the NFL with the trades, and I had to come on here and talk about my team. You know, I want to first of all start off by saying, first of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for just giving me the opportunities to, consistently come on here and talk about football. It's always a pleasure. It's always a grand opportunity for me to talk about the sport that I love and that, kind of shaped me into the, man I am today. So I want to first and foremost, give grace and be thankful just because, I don't feel like I do that enough. Like I don't talk about how thankful I am, for the opportunities, that I get. It's always easy to complain about the opportunities you don't have, but you should always be grateful for the opportunities you do have. So I just want to start by saying that. And then I also want to just talk about my team, man. Just talk about this is why the Rams are my team. As many of you know, while you're watching this, right? You know that the Rams traded for the best defensive player in the NFL, MYLES Garrett. The Cleveland Browns and the Los Angeles Rams agreed to terms on a blockbuster trade that will send two-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year MYLES Garrett to my Rams for Jared Verse and a trio of picks the team announced. Now, I believe those picks are a first-round pick, I believe a third and a fifth. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what the trade was. In addition to Verse, the Rams are sending the Browns, like I said, a first, a 2028 second, and then a 2029 third. And this is depending, on his physicals. So like I was saying, man, one of the things that I just love about my team, and this is on brand for my team, we consistently take massive swings in order to put ourselves in position to consistently win Super Bowls year in and year out. Last year, we were a game away, and I'll talk about that. And I'll talk about that game against the Seahawks, and I think a lot that happened in that game is the reason why we're seeing this trade right now. But I just want to, belabor the point of, how much, I just love that my team, consistently takes massive swings. We have that saying, F them picks. And again, just right on brand for what has been consistently thought about the Rams. Like they don't care about first round picks, right? If you know about the Rams defense, we've put the most draft picks on the field of any team in the NFL. That's, first, second, third, fourth round. We have the most actual drafted players that have been and played snaps for us, on the field. And also, the Rams have shown that they're able to get massive value. Blakey, what's up? What's up, Blake? They are able to get massive value in the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth rounds, of the draft. Therefore, from that, I get why they're always so willing to trade these first round picks because their draft process, first and foremost, is very particular. It's very detailed, and they have a process of what they do. I believe Jordan Rodriguez, who used to cover the Rams but now is one of the head reporters over at The Athletic, she detailed this story in depth of the Rams draft process. And as you can see, with, most of their draft picks not only, getting on the field but contributing, they are all in on their process. And that is one reason why I believe that, they made this trade. And then in addition, Les Snead is not a guy who is going to sit back and just, let things come to him. The Rams have had cost control on a defensive line and have put themselves in a spot where they're able to take massive swings like this. And in addition, the contract they got from MYLES Garrett, let me just look it up real quick. I believe he's going to only be making like, $28 million or something like that, like over the next, I think his cap hit is like 28, 29 and something like that. So I always go to Spot Track, but I want to look at that. Blakey, you got a question? What's the question? Question is, Is it true the Rams traded Jarrett Verse in the first round pick for Myles Garrett? Absolutely. I was just talking about that. So I'm going to spot track contracts. I want to look up Myles Garrett's contract really quickly, just for my own sake, because I want to know. And then I'm going to also talk about the A.J. Brown trade, because as you guys know, I got on live before, and I talked very candidly about loser energy. And when you just hear about the A.J. Brown trade, and you hear all the backstory that's in it, very much loser energy. And I talked about that. I talked about that in depth, of how I wouldn't want AJ on my team at all. And subsequently, he's been traded. So, Myles Garrett's contract, because you remember he got a contract extension last year because he threatened to leave, but they ended up giving him more money. But he had signed a 4-year, $160 million deal and got 88 of it guaranteed. And so his cap hit this is 2026, so his cap hit is only 8 mil, then 16 mil, and then 21 mil for the next 2 years. So I mean that's a solid contract. I mean, and you know, a lot of this probably was paid by the Browns. So again, I mean, the Rams ain't really losing much. I just want to see. So he still got some decent money left. 2029, when he's 34 and 35, he probably still won't be on the roster. Realistically, he's probably going to be on the roster for 2026, 2027, 2028. If he has a crazy year, he's probably going to want more money. And, you know, I can see that. I can see him, you know, asking for more money, especially if we win the Super Bowl. So, like I said, man, I love this trade, obviously. Like, I don't have to, you know, sit and say it. The reason I'm so overjoyed about it is in one offseason, we were able to not only upgrade our DB room, but we were able to upgrade, you know, probably the most valuable position on the defense, you know, with the best player at the position and probably in all of, you know, football. You know, he's the most valuable non-quarterback there is, you know, in the NFL right now. I just want to thank everybody for, you know, joining the live. Narc, thank you for joining the live. If y'all wouldn't mind, please share the live. Share it. Join people to come in. I want, you know, people to come in, share their thoughts about this Rams trade, you know, and let me know what y'all think. I'm trying to share this live myself. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. My bad, y'all. And then y'all tell me if y'all like the wire headphones. You know, I wanted to try that. What that's going? I'm lagging a little bit. I don't like this. I'm lagging. So I'm posting right now. All right. So I posted it to Twitter. So now I'm sharing the live. Now we get back into it. So again, love what the Rams did. We were able to upgrade our DB room, able to upgrade our defensive line that was already good. I have so many thoughts, and so now I'm just expressing them all out on live. I'm going to try to make them as clear and concise, you know, as I possibly can. So first of all, let me examine the Ram side. From our side, yo, Carson Shane, what's really good with you, big dog? I see you out there at ECU. You're truly a man of your word. So shout out to you, man. My man, Carson Shane. This is the son, y'all. This is the son of Joe Shane, one of the top quarterbacks in New Jersey. He's going to have a crazy season for Don Bosco. You did tell me. You told me ECU. You did. I didn't believe you. I ain't going to lie. I didn't believe you at first, but you was right. You said it. Back at Coastal Wednesday and then Syracuse Thursday. Okay, y'all hear it right here. Carson Shane will be at Coastal Carolina on Wednesday, and then he will be at Syracuse on Thursday. I knew you was going to find your way to Syracuse somehow. I know Fran recruiting you so hard, and I understand, bro. Like Carson Shane is a solid quarterback, working on his craft every day, man. So shout out you, Carson, man. Keep doing your thing, man. I'm gonna be watching you crazy, you know, on Don Bosco. See how you lead that team. You know, you're a natural born leader, man, and I hope you have a heck of a year, man. So go follow my man Carson Shane. Blake says the Rams might go to the NFC Championship again this year. Yeah, I think we could go to the NFC Championship for sure. I was telling somebody today, man. Everybody kind of feels like I'm being a little bit modest about the trade, but again, that I don't know if people remember. I don't know what year that was. I can't remember what year, but it was a year that the Eagles had signed like Vince Young, Nnamdi Asomugha. They signed like all the top free agents, and that year kind of scarred me so much because it was just like, bro, I want to see how it meshes, man. That's all I gotta say. Like, I want to see how it meshes with Miles. Miles is gonna be playing, in a base 3-4. I don't think Cleveland's defense was a base 3-4. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it. I'm not 100% sure right now. But he's gonna be playing in a base 3-4, so he's gonna do a lot of standing up because he's listed now as an outside linebacker. I hope Chris Shula plans on using him like all across the line. So some snaps we see him standing up. Some snaps we see him with his hand in the dirt. Some snaps we see him at 1 tech. Some snaps we see him at 3 tech. He's done all of that. I believe he does his Euro step pass rush move. I believe he does that from the interior. So, and I've seen him do it off of a stunt too. So I hope, he's only right outside linebacker, just in name, just in position. But I hope he's just really utilized, all over the defensive line. So yes, it is a huge trade, but Carson took me off my train of thought. But like I said, examining it from the Rams perspective, I understand fully why this move was done. This move was done. If you watched our game against the Seahawks, one of the things that I noticed, besides our passing defense just getting shredded by Sam Darnold, we did not get to the quarterback the way that a young studded defensive line should. And as a result of that, what we saw against the highest competition at the most pivotal time is that while we have a lot of good defensive linemen, so Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Byron Young, and at the time Jared Verse, we don't have any great defensive linemen. We don't have any finishers. Avery Johnson, man, appreciate you following the live, man, and following me. If you wouldn't mind, could you please share the live, please? I greatly appreciate that, man. If you could do that for me, appreciate that. But like I was saying, we don't have that one great pass rusher that can finish, right? While all of our defensive linemen consistently get pressure, we did not have one defensive lineman that can finish, right? If you remember, in a Super Bowl, there was a couple games. A Thursday night game back in the day, I can't remember. I think it was against the Niners, I believe it was against. And the Super Bowl game, remember, Aaron Donald finished that game with sacks, right? And no one has ever questioned whether or not Aaron Donald, is an elite pass rusher, right? And we know when the chips are down and the stakes are high, we know that we can count on Aaron Donald to finish these plays, especially if he's blocked one-on-one. That is the same rationale that I know Les Snead and Sean McVay have about Myles Garrett. When the chips are down, when the stakes are high, when it gets cold, when you need a sack, you can count on Myles Garrett to do that. I don't think we could necessarily count on Jared Verse to do that, which is why, even though Jared Verse was good and he's up and coming, I believe he's 25, going on 26 this year, and Myles Garrett is 30. It's not that much difference in age I'm speaking of between Myles Garrett and Jared Verse. Jared Verse is an ascending edge rusher. Myles Garrett is the edge rusher. And that is exactly why you give up a first, a third, and a fifth for a guy like Myles Garrett, who, again, can rush with power, can rush with speed, can rush with finesse, can do anything you want. Play to run, like you saw him, joking with Micah this offseason about how he does everything. You know what I mean? I believe he got 20-plus sacks this one year. And just getting a guy that's generational. The Rams seem to consistently be able to find players, especially defensive players, who are generational. And then you pair a guy like Myles Garrett, and then you trade for a guy like Trent McDuffie, and then you have two solid safeties in Cam Curl and Cam Kitchens, and we don't really invest that much money in linebacker anyway, so honestly, it doesn't really matter who we have at linebacker. Now you got a studded defense, because now we have the best edge rusher in the league, and we got the best DB in the league. And you pair those two up, and you may have yourself a Super Bowl winning defense. And when we, went to the Super Bowl, we had stars across the roster. Obviously, we had Aaron Donald. Obviously, we had Jalen Ramsey. We just had a bunch of guys, Von Miller. Like, we had a bunch of guys, who could really get it done. But I believe Von Miller got hurt before we got to the Super Bowl. But he still contributed to the run, though. He was playing really well. But we had a lot of guys who had big names and who was able to contribute in a multiplicity of ways. And then on our current defense, man, listen, I'm going to even throw Nate Landman in there. I know he's not like a household name, but he had a heck of a year for us last year, especially turning the ball over. And so, again, with all of that, all of those things combined, right, and then you look at the future, of the Rams. I just talked about Myles Garrett's contract. Again, he's not making much money. Obviously, we plan to have him on a roster probably for the next, 2 or 3 years, right? And once you have him on that roster for the next 2 or 3 years, probably going to trade him, or they're probably going to find another edge rusher. Now, this doesn't put you in this position where, you have to pay Kobe Turner the big money, or you have to pay Byron Young big money. I believe we also have Steve Avila coming up, and then we got Kevin Dotson, coming up. I would personally like for the Rams to allocate money to keeping that offensive line solid. I feel like that is one of our strongest units that we have. And right now, the projected line is Alaric Jackson, Steve Avila, Coleman Shelton at center, Kevin Dotson, and McClendon Jr., who played really well for us last year. And again, this gives the Rams flexibility to sign those two guards back. I personally will want to let Kobe Turner and Byron Young walk, especially if you plan on keeping Myles past the next 2 seasons, right? Because the Rams, again, as I said in the beginning, the Rams have shown that they are able to find quality players in the later rounds. And so, therefore, as a result of that, I don't think it's a pressing need for them to, have to sign any of the other defensive pieces long term. I bet you both of these guys, Byron Young and Kobe Turner, are going to use these as auditions, for other teams, because they're probably going to understand that their time is probably going to be up. I believe what I want and what I believe they're going to do is obviously going to be two different things. I think they'll probably sign Kobe Turner back. It depends, man. I don't know. It depends on this year. It depends on like how Kobe and or Byron play with Myles, right, and how they eat off that. I want to see that, and I want to see how that takes fruition before I, make my prediction of who I think they'll sign back. I think they'll sign one of those guys back, either Kobe or Byron, or they're going to sign both the guards back, which I believe they should do. I don't think they should give them big money, but definitely give them, fair offers. Keeping that offensive line and continuity is something that I'm very passionate about. Which leads me to my second point, which is why, we also have Matthew Stafford, who signed a 2-year contract. And what's Blake saying? Blake's saying Puka might actually get his first ring. He might. He need to, fix his attitude, and he need to keep his nose clean, and stay away from these women that's causing him to bite them. If he can do that, then yeah, I might agree with you. Listen, it's not going to be a foregone conclusion that we're going to win the Super Bowl. Are we favorites? Yes. Do we have a nice roster? Yes. Do we have some holes? Yes. 2 things can be true. So we have a solid roster. I just want to pump the brakes on Super Bowl talk. I will agree. We are favorites on paper, but we got to see how these pieces mesh. We don't play well against the Niners. We play well against the Seahawks, but now the Seahawks kind of have our number now. Not have our number, but they've played us a lot tougher. So I want to see how we play against those two teams with this new roster before I make any judgment. Right now, I'm going to say yes, we are the favorites to win the Super Bowl. But I don't think that we're going to, as currently constructed, right now in this moment, I don't think that we're going to win the Super Bowl. But I will agree that we are the favorites on paper, if everybody understands what I'm saying. So I just want to see how we play against these better teams, especially teams that have historically played us well. And, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I also, one of my concerns is, the depth, at the wide receiver position. But what I think is going to happen is the Rams are going to rock out with Puka, obviously, Devontae Adams, Kanata Mumfield, CJ Daniels is going to get some run. But we're going to utilize a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets. I mean, we took Max Clare from Ohio State in the draft. We already had Terrence Ferguson from Oregon, who got some reps last year and did have some reps from at wide receiver. And then obviously we have Kobe Parkinson's and Tyler Higbee. We have 4 tight ends, and I believe all of those tight ends are going to get run somewhere or another. I bet you they're kind of looking at Terrence Ferguson as being a big slot, where a piece where they can consistently move him in line or move him, out wide. That's why I don't think they've went so hard on wide receiver 3. And Kanata Mumfield did get a lot of run in the playoffs too. He got so much run that it felt like McVay kind of trusted him a little bit. And so as a result, I think that's what you'll see from the Rams passing game. It's going to be a lot of mixing and matching of wide receivers and tight ends going from inline to wide receiver position, and we're going to see a lot of, big slot play. I think the Rams are going to be fine, at wide receiver, because you wouldn't take a guy like Max Clare if you didn't believe that's the role that you have for him, and then not take a wide receiver 3. And I'm glad that we didn't take Mekhi Lemon, because I actually like this. If you remember at the draft time, there was a big run on tight ends. And it seems like McVay is always the one to set a trend. McVay or Andy Reid is always the one to set a trend that the league wants to follow. Ben Johnson was doing it this year too, using a lot of tight ends. So I think we'll see more of that. And, I think this offense is going to still stay explosive. Just because the names aren't sexy, you have to remember that McVay's system is one of the best systems in the league. And he's constantly reinventing and changing that system, to fit the personnel that he has. So I think that's more of what we're going to see. Like I said, if Puka can keep his nose clean, I think we're going to be in good shape. So I love the trade. Oh, I got to analyze it from one other perspective too. Now it's a situation with MYLES GARRETT where, everybody was kind of banging on the Rams because they didn't make a move in the draft to win now, right? And again, this even reinforces more how much I love the Ty Simpson pick, right? Because again, when you have Hall of Famers, on the roster, which, MYLES GARRETT will be, this buys you time with that quarterback that you have, right? Ty Simpson obviously is probably not going to play for the next 2 years, and that's the same gap of time that they probably plan on having Myles, and they're hoping to win a Super Bowl at that time. And what they're saying is in the next 2 years, Stafford either is going to get one this year or next year, because Stafford just signed an extension. So if he gets one either this year or next year, right, he's going to ride off into the sunset, and then we're going to see Ty Simpson. I like everything that I've been hearing from, Matthew Stafford in terms of saying that he's been very forthcoming with how much he's been wanting to help Ty Simpson along. And listen, I wasn't the biggest fan of Ty Simpson in college. I thought that he threw the ball downfield really well. The Rams said that he processes really well, which is like half the battle. He was accurate. He can run. So from that perspective, I can use those tools. And again, McVay has shown that his system is good enough to where if you put a quarterback that fits the mold that he wants, he can get a top 5, top 10 offense out of it. So I am almost betting that's what they're planning on getting from Ty Simpson. And then on top of that, he doesn't have to be a top 5 or top 10 quarterback. He could be a top 15 quarterback play is good enough to get you to a Super Bowl. And if he could just be top 15 and McVay and Snead can build out the rest of this roster, I think they're going to be straight. And again, I love this pick. I love this trade for the Rams, and that's just another layer on the trade that makes that pick even better. And now we're gonna see. We're gonna see. We are going to see. Them just take their time, with Ty Simpson, and so, that's what I really want. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to find, this roster, the other roster, because I want to discuss this from the Browns' perspective. So obviously the Browns, got Jarrett Verse back in the trade. I don't think that was an even exchange, first of all. I know Jarrett Verse is an up-and-coming edge rusher, but you traded a generational edge for an up-and-coming edge. And I'm not saying it's a bad trade because he's probably going to do really well. However, Cleveland has been bad for the past 2 years. I'm getting ready to pull up their roster because it's going to help me determine how I feel. So right now, they have... So I'm talking about on the offense right now, right? I want to see who they have. I'm looking at our lads right now, and they got Denzel Boston, Jerry Jeudy, and KC Concepcion, penciled in as the wide receiving starters. And obviously you got Deshaun Watson. Now, with Todd Monken coming over, it's basically like he's starting from scratch. I believe this is Jerry Jeudy's last year. Oh, we got a question from my man Blakey. Blake says, question, who do you think has the best roster in the league currently? Best roster in the league currently? Man, that's a great question. I mean, in terms of high-end talent, I would say the Rams. In terms of high-end talent, so we got the MVP at quarterback. You got Puka Nacua, who's, in my opinion, the best wide receiver. Like, we're a real top-heavy team. We got the best edge rusher in the league. We got the best DB in the league. We're a very top-heavy. We're a very top-heavy team. If you're also asking me who has the deepest team in terms of roster across the board, I would probably say the Seahawks have a pretty deep roster too. The Niners have a pretty deep roster. Those are the first 3 teams that come to mind, right now in terms of best roster. Because there's a difference between best roster and deepest roster. Like, I think the Rams have the best roster because we have a lot of top-end talent. And then on top of that, our mid-level players are really good also too. So we may have the best overall roster in the league, to be quite honest with you. So, yeah, that's just me, thinking right now. I can't even see, all of the other teams right now. But hold on, let me see. Blake says, what teams do you think might make the playoffs in the NFC? Philly out of the East. I think they're gonna win the East because they got rid of the cancer on their team. Bears, I think will make it. Green Bay, I think will make it. Man, the North may have 4 teams that make it. See, that's gonna be tough. I mean, the North have 3 teams because I don't like Minnesota. So the North may have 3 teams, and then like Carolina from the South may get there. Like, you're asking me questions way too early. But if I had to put my finger on it though, I'll say the Rams make it out of the West. I'm gonna go Carolina to make it out of the South. I really like the Bears. It's out of Bears and Green Bay. If I had to pick between these 2 teams, I know Green Bay is a little bit better because they got better. So I'll go with Green Bay. Green Bay out of the North, that's 3. I'm either going Dallas or Philly to come out of the East. Maybe I'll go Eagles. And then for wild cards, I'll probably say Bears. Bears. I don't know. The wild card's tough. Maybe Bears, San Fran, and Seattle. Like I gotta put Seattle in there. It just won the Super Bowl. It's tough. Like the NFC is a gauntlet, bro. It's a gauntlet each and every day. Invite Rico knows the co-host. I will. I would love to do something with Rico, but I don't really know him like that to be inviting him as a co-host just yet. But that's my question for it, Blakey. So, but yeah, so I'm going back to our lads and looking at the rosters from the Browns. You know, from their perspective, I've personally loved the trade for them because they actually did right by my man Miles. You know, they could have easily just, kept in that same cycle of, we're losing, so let's just keep losing every year and then have such a top defense. I mean, they have, other requisite pieces on that defense with my man Carson Schwarzenegger, obviously Denzel Ward. They had Mason Graham, who was all right. They got Quincy Williams now. Grant Delpit was really good. I do like Ronnie Hickman. Like a lot of their players on their defense, I really do like. So I understand why they were like like a top 10 unit or something like that. Obviously with Miles, who was breaking the sack record, but with Todd Monken coming over and running this offense, hopefully they get something solid from Deshaun Watson. It doesn't seem like they feel like they're gonna get too much from him. But they have playmakers though. Between Harold Fannin, between Quinshon Judkins, like I said, Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston, and then Jerry Jeudy. Like that's a solid young core, and maybe that core can grow together. I don't know if Deshaun Watson is going to be the quarterback, and maybe he isn't. Now that they got 2 first-round picks, now they probably can go get a quarterback that they love, not like but love. But which brings me to, well, okay, so what are they going to do with Shador? Are they going to give Shador an opportunity to? Is Monkey going to give Shador an opportunity to win the job? Or is he just going to keep him as a backup? I mean, because Monken did say going in that he tried to go up and get Shador, right? And that was to obviously sit behind Lamar. So, I mean, with this upcoming draft and everybody overhyping it, because they believe that it's rich with quarterback talent with like Lenora Sellers, Arch Manning, Dante Moore, probably John Mateer, like guys like that. They're hoping that they can find one of these generational type quarterbacks in this draft, and so maybe that's what they're banking on. I'm just out here just flying through scenarios, but you can't wait on Shador forever. I don't know if that's Monken's plan. I would love to see Shador, get a shot, man. If a guy is, I believe he started the season as the 3rd string quarterback and ended up ending the season with $17 million in jersey sales. That is quite an astronomical number. And I've been on podcasts before saying one of the best things that can happen to the Cleveland Browns is if Shador Sanders becomes a starting quarterback and actually wins. And those jersey sales is reflective of the comment that I made. Just imagine if he was actually winning them games, week in and week out and get them to the playoffs somehow. How much better, that city would be. And if I'm not mistaken, they're moving into a new stadium, out in Brooks Park in the suburb. I believe they're taking the stadium out of the city and going to a new venue. Like, Cleveland has everything, locked up and right in front of them to kind of take advantage of the situation. So I think the next opportunity that Shador gets, he needs to take it by the horns. But pertaining to this trade, they really don't they really don't have anything to play for. They're not in position to win a Super Bowl or even go to the playoffs because their team is so young. They're still shuffling on the O-line. Right now they have, their first-round pick, Spencer Fano at left tackle, Zion Johnson, who's solid, Elton Jenkins, who's rock solid at center, Tevin Jenkins, who got drafted by the Bears, and then they have, Titus Howard from Houston, which is I think this is a solid offensive line. Honestly, I don't. We got to see what we get from Spencer Fano. You know, he was regarded as the best left tackle in this draft. Very athletic young man who can move his feet and be agile. So definitely want to see what happens with that. But just looking at this team, I think they have a lot of young, feisty pieces, and they know, based upon this, that they're probably not going to. Oh man, I'm just looking at the roster. They drafted Taylon Green too, who was former Arkansas quarterback. Very athletic guy too. So like they have a bunch of quarterbacks on this roster. So man, the Browns will be an interesting story this upcoming year, and for them to get 2 first-round picks. They got a 3rd and an 8th. Like they're, positioned to, again, build out this roster. Maybe Andrew Berry isn't the guy that they let build it out again, but they definitely have the ammunition to make certain things happen. And so, from the Browns' perspective, I like the trade. I like the fact that they did right by Myles. And they traded him to a contender. Obviously, it's out of the division, so it's no skin off their back, and I don't believe they play the Rams this year. So it's just like whatever, you know what I mean? They got a 1st, a 3rd, and a 5th back, and a up and coming edge rusher who's also been really good for them, who also has been really good for the Rams. Excuse me. So I mean, I think this was a great trade, and this is a great move, and I like the trade for both sides. I mean, obviously with my Rams getting a generational edge, pairing him with the best DB in the league, and then for Cleveland, kind of showing that they're going to go into a rebuild, especially with all these young players, and they're going to give Monken an opportunity, to build this offense out and then build this entire roster out. Like I said, he inherits an already solid defense, and now they put themselves in position to, if they choose to get one of those quarterbacks out of this next draft and build a roster, like they can do. I believe they can do both. And so this was a trade that was, a win-win for both sides. Again, this trade works because the Rams aren't a team who highly covet first-round draft picks. They covet more veteran players and then young players in later rounds. So it works for all parties involved, and this was a great trade, and I'm glad this was made, and this is going to shake up the landscape. Right now, everybody's highly regarding us as the best team in the NFL. Based on, like I said, based on paper, I think that's true, but we got to wait until the games is played. I know everybody said, well, no duh, but nah, like, just because you have all of the talent, this is not like basketball. You can't just get, 2 or 3 or 4 Hall of Famers and put them on a team together and expect it to go all the way to the finals, right? This is football, man, where schemes and coaching matters. In basketball, a guy can be a great one-on-one scorer and like single-handedly win you games. You know what I mean? Football is not like that. So again, I just want to, see how things unfold. I am optimistic about the year, but I'm being cautiously optimistic because I want to see how these pieces gel. I want to see what Chris Shula does with this defense. And now this will probably put Chris Shula in a way and put him in the limelight where he can, parlay this into a head coaching job. So I'm excited, man, and I can't wait to see what my Rams do. So, another trade that was executed this week was one of my least favorite players, A.J. Brown, was traded to the Patriots. I'm just pulling up the trade just to make sure I don't get anything wrong. Okay. I want to make sure I get the full details of the trade. So, A.J. Brown was traded from the Eagles to the Patriots, I believe, for a first-round pick. Hold on one second. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Oh, wait. Blakey got another question. He says, the Minnesota Vikings need a better quarterback. Well, you don't know who the quarterback's going to be. You don't know if it's going to be Kyler or if it's going to be JJ. And then Kyler could really suck. Like, it's not a foregone conclusion that, Kyler Murray or JJ are gonna be good. It's no foregone conclusion that Kyler is gonna automatically be better than JJ. I understand he didn't play well last year, but he might have gotten better. Gotta be optimistic. Okay. I'm just trying to get the trade details of this. I want to see. So the Patriots are shipping off a 2028 first-round pick and a 2027 fifth-rounder in exchange for A.J. Brown. So they sent a first and a fifth for A.J. Brown, and that's all the Patriots got was A.J. Brown. So here's my thing. If you have been following my streams for a minute, you know I'm not the best A.J. Brown fan. Matter of fact, I don't like him at all as a player. Obviously I don't know him as a person, but I don't like him as a player. He's entirely too temperamental. He's entirely too moody. He's entirely too emotional for me. And when you start to listen to all of the rhetoric that has come out in the aftermath of this trade in terms of why A.J. Brown was traded, it only reinforces what I was saying before, that he just gives off loser and loser energy. If you remember, back in the regular season, it would be a situation where the Eagles would have, high passing numbers and they would lose. And then it was a situation where they would have, great rushing success and AJ would touch the ball minimally and he would be pissed even though they would win. And see, that's the type of energy I can't respect. And again, for those of you who don't know, there has been a lot of rumors as to, the reasons that led up to the trade. One reason that was put out was because Hassan Reddick and A.J. Brown were smashing the same side chick. And as a result of them smashing the same side chick, they said that A.J. went to Jalen to say, hey, I need you to intervene in this. And I'm trying to figure out, like, what is Jalen Hurts going to do, though? Like, what is he going to say to Hassan Reddick? Stop messing with the girl? Mind you, A.J. Brown is a dude that's married. And that's another reason that I can't mess with him. He is a guy that brought about these events on himself. And then now you want Jalen Hurts to come save you. It's like, no, you're a grown man. Own up, fess up to it, and face the music. But instead, he want to try to run and hide and try to act like it didn't happen. See, those are the worst type of dudes. Dudes who throw the rocks and then try to hide their hands and then try to play victim. Like he don't know what's going on. And then his interview, I believe he just did an interview. I can't remember. I can't see the reporter in my mind right now. But he just did an interview, I believe it was for NFL Network or somebody, where he's saying like he's ecstatic to be a Patriot. He's jumping for joy like a kid in a candy store. Just using all of these very extra hyperboles that we know you don't even mean. Like you're jumping for joy or a kid in a candy store. Like how? You know what I mean? So it's just like you went from, now mind you, the Patriots are a Super Bowl contending team based upon the fact that they made it last year. Like some people would disagree with it, but just because I don't like him as a player, that doesn't mean he's not a good player. That doesn't mean that he can't change things with his talent. Like lots of people compare him to T.O., and we're seeing that not only is he not like T.O. as a player, he's like that, as a, temper in terms of his temperament. So, but I don't think he's as good as T.O. T.O. is, in my opinion, is the greatest receiver, ever doing it. A.J. Brown, to me, is not the greatest receiver to ever do it. Just because I don't like players that they would rather have a good game and lose than rather have a non-existent game and win. You know what I mean? And like he's one of those guys, and that's the type of energy I can't mess with. So listening to everything as to why the Eagles, traded him away. Just going back to the Jalen Hurts situation, their relationship just really soured. And this is a prime example for people just all over it to take a lesson from Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. That remember before A.J. Brown was traded to the Eagles, they was talking about, oh, look at Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown working out together. They're the best of friends. They're good pals. It will work out great because they're already friends. This is a prime example of, yes, you can be friends with somebody, but when you have to basically live with somebody, see them every day, and now you get to see their mannerisms, you get to see their ups and their downs, their good side and their bad side. When you get to see all of those things, it's just not the same when you spend more time with a person. Like spending a couple days with somebody here and there in the offseason, to me, is not a friendship. You know what I mean? And this was really reflected, in how their relationship deteriorated over time. You know what I mean? If y'all truly friends, there shouldn't be nothing that come between y'all, right? But when you have somebody so silly like A.J. Brown doing dumb stuff, when A.J. Brown, and listen, I just want to say this first. Mental health is real. I'm not an advocate or anything, but I respect mental health and I respect, how it affects people. But when you got a guy consistently talking about his moods, just being a moody guy, reading books on the sideline, the calm yourself down, those are all red flags. Because it shows that you cannot keep yourself in check. Now, you do whatever you got to do to keep yourself, from going off on somebody. But clearly it didn't even work. Because ultimately you got traded. Ultimately, Howie Roseman, Sirianni, they thought the team would be better without you there. They rather have draft picks than have a borderline top 5 receiver on their team. That should tell you something right there. So, from the Eagles' perspective, I think they won the trade. They won the trade because they got a loser off their team. And then they got somebody, a young buck like Mekhi Lemon, who can, I'm not sitting here saying he's going to replace A.J. Brown, but at least he'll contribute. So, I know Mekhi got some bad press for what he did at the combine, but I think Mekhi's going to be fine. They still have Devontae Smith, who's still a great route runner, can catch. They have Dallas Goedert, who's really good. Obviously Saquon Barkley. They drafted that other. No, let me get my facts straight. They did draft another tight end. Who was it that they drafted? Oh no. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Stay with me, y'all. Stay with me. Where is he? I'm going to depth chart. I'm on the NFL depth charts. I just want to see the Eagles roster. I need to brush up on this. Eagles. It's all these doggone ads on our lads, bro. Making my junk go. So slow. But, oh yeah, they got Dontavian Wicks that they traded for also. And then they have Dallas Goedert. Eli Stowers, that's it. That's what they got. Eli Stowers. So they have serviceable weapons. Elijah Moore they got. I'm not a huge fan of him, but, he's on the roster. So they have, serviceable weapons and people that they can throw to. And hopefully, Jalen Hurts can play a little bit more freely and not have to force the ball to A.J. Brown, like he was, basically forced to do. And now maybe they're going to have more of a free-flowing offense. I believe they got Sean Mannion to come over from Green Bay, I believe it was he came over from. And we'll see how, much different this offense looks. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the Eagles because the Eagles, Howie Roseman has shown that, he can draft well, trade well, and he's just he's a top level GM. Him and Leslie are in the upper echelon of GMs in the league. So I have faith that Howie Roseman that, he's going to get this situation together, and I'm excited for the Eagles. Now, going over to the Patriots side. Yes, they are a winner too. And the reason that they are a winner is because A.J. Brown has played for Braves before. Mike Vrabel before. And Vrabel knows him. And it's definitely better when you go to somebody who knows you, who understands you. Played his best football, in that Titans uniform. And so they are hoping they recapture that magic. Now, for me, one of the things that I'm keeping my eye open for is the same questions that people had about Stephon Diggs when he went from Minnesota to Buffalo. People had questions about whether or not he was going to be patient with Josh Allen, whether or not he can keep himself composed in high pressure moments, and whether or not the way he conducted himself would be beneficial in Buffalo. And ultimately, for the duration of the time he was in Buffalo, it worked out well. Obviously, they fell short in the playoffs multiple times, but in terms of helping the maturation of Josh Allen, I believe he did that, right? He facilitated Josh's maturation into the best quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. So, applying that same rationale here, I think we may be able to get that same type of impact from A.J. Brown, depending on which one we get. If we're getting Titans A.J. Brown, less temperamental A.J. Brown, then yeah, it can be a match made to where he can really help out a guy like Drake May, who was, really coming up and really did some good things in the first half of the year, in that passing game, despite not really having an upper echelon, weapon on that Patriots roster. Their defense was immaculate. I believe they were, for a long period of time, they were the top defense in the league. They still got Hey, let me pull up their roster. Like I said, I got to start, realizing these rosters. I don't want to speak without having these rosters together. I'm just speaking about talent right now. So yeah. So I'm looking at their wide receiver core. So, looking now, it's A.J. Brown, Mac Hollins, Romeo Doubs, and then they have Hunter Henry still at tight end, who I like a lot. So, I mean, that's solid. Demario Douglas, Kyle Williams, Keyshawn Butte. So it's gonna be a lot of battling in that wide receiver room to see who gets snaps, which is good. You always want to create, some level of competition for, across every position. So I feel like they've done that. And again, we're hoping that AJ is going to elevate, all the other, wide receivers on the team. He has shown it in the Eagles, even though he did play well. To me, he showed himself to not be a leader. Why? Because leaders don't create friction, right? And then on top of that, sometimes friction is good, but if you can work through it and work past it, that's the sign of good leadership. And they did not do that, right? Again, going back to the stories, right? There was a story about the whole reason as to why A.J. Brown did not invite Jalen Hurts to his wedding, right? And obviously, I'm not in NFL circles, so I don't know. But I would think, a dude that they said was your friend and y'all were cool off the field and all this other jazz, I would think, especially since they play together, I would think that you would invite him to your wedding if y'all cool like that. But clearly, that's the indicator to everybody that clearly something was wrong, and clearly y'all not as cool as I tried to make it seem like. Especially since I'm not at your wedding. But, make a long story short, A.J. Brown's wife found out that he was cheating on her with that side chick that him and Hassan Reddick was smashing. And then once she figured it out, she confided to Jalen Hurts' wife. Jalen Hurts' wife subsequently says, yo, don't marry him because he's a cheater. A.J. Brown spazzes on Jalen Hurts' wife, tell her to mind your own business. This all sounds very plausible. And then as a result of that, I believe they said, this is all allegedly, they said that this caused AJ Brown's wife to hate Jalen Hurts' wife and Jalen Hurts, so that's why they didn't get an invite to their wedding. So my point is, this is the guy that you're who created all of this on the Eagles, and now this is the guy that is currently on the Patriots. So you just don't know what you're going to get from him. And again, if you can get a motivated, non-distracted, non-problem A.J. Brown, this can be a heck of a trade. You know, if you're going to get this dude who creates havoc with dudes that is his so-called friends, like, then I don't want that guy. I don't like this move for the Patriots. I mean, did they need a number one option? Yes, they desperately needed a number one option. Did they get one? Yes. No one would ever, poo-poo that he is the number one option. But there are other number one options you could have got, man. If they could get any other one but him, I would love this trade. But I don't love this trade. I only like it just because, again, as much as I'm sitting here lamenting how much I don't really mess with A.J. Brown like that, he still is a great receiver. I'm a guy who's unbiased based upon my feelings, right? I don't let my feelings affect what I see on the field. You know what I mean? What I've seen on the field from A.J. Brown when he's gotten consistent targets and when he's gotten one-on-one matchups is dominance. So, I can't, no matter how I feel, I can't take that away from him. But, I want to see how he messes with Drake May. Again, Drake May is an ascending quarterback. Finished, second in the MVP voting, last year. And this could be the move that can propel him to the MVP, especially if they have similar success on defense, like they had last year. And while I love this for Drake May, and while I love this for the Patriots roster, just giving an outlook as to what I would want to see from the offense, this upcoming year, I really don't like Ramondre Stevenson like that. I thought they was going to get rid of him after his fumbling problems kind of reared his ugly head again, not in the playoffs, but he definitely was fumbling enough where I noticed it. And I hope at some point Travion Henderson becomes the lead back, and I hope they lean into that run game. Doing a lot of play action passes, but the point, bringing this back to our thesis, if they decided to do that, how is A.J. Brown? How is A.J. Brown gonna react? You know what I mean? So, I hate the fact that a lot of this is contingent on someone's attitude, one person's attitude. But if anybody can get this ship steered, it's my boy Vrabes, and that is something that I would say about Coach Vrabel, is that he is a great motivator. In addition to being really good at the X's and O's, and in addition to being good as a strategizer, I think, managing egos is his thing. Since if no one who's listening to this, if anyone who's listening to this doesn't know, Coach Vrabel used to play for the Patriots, won some Super Bowls, with him. So, he knows what players go through and is able to, empathize and sympathize with players. So, oh, hold on, y'all. I don't know why it does that. I've been sitting here talking for almost an hour. Why does it do that? But anyway, so all I can do is shake my head at this trade, man. Because while I like it and I don't love it, I understand why they did it, and I'm just not an A.J. Brown fan. And I really want to be wrong about him, and I really want to see him dominate, but dude, he's just entirely too emotional, bro. They're bringing up the fact that this is the most accomplished wide receiver that the Patriots have had since Randy Moss. Randy Moss was able to dominate when he was playing with Tom Brady, and that's really what, he was a legend when he played for Minnesota, but he took it to another level when he went to Miami, when he went to New England. So I don't know, y'all. I really don't like this trade as much as I should. You know, I don't think this puts them better over the Bills. Right? I still think they're second fiddle to the Bills, but I think I don't know. We'll see, man. We'll see, bro. This trade just doesn't. It does it for me, but it don't. And I'm gonna continue to say that it's just. I'm just really not an AJ Brown fan at all, and that's really what it comes down to. I'm just not a fan. So I wish I was more of a fan, but I can't be. I can't rest my laurels on BS, and he's just definitely doing some straight BS. So those are the two trades that caught my attention. Wanted just to come on here and talk about it real quick. Also want to shout out the Giants, man, for signing OBJ back. That was a great move. I hope he retires as a Giant. I'm glad that he's getting another, opportunities. Just another guy who got plagued by injuries, and I know he's worked his butt off to get back and in rehab. A lot of his rehab videos be on his Instagram and stuff like that, and his Twitter. So I'm just very happy for OBJ. He was one of my favorite receivers, and I still love OBJ, and I'm going to be very excited to watch him, go back out there and suit up for the Big Blue again. Obviously now, you got Malik Neighbors, and then you got OBJ. Who else is their wide receiver? I don't even know the Giants wide receivers right now. I was gonna say Wandale, but Wandale went to the Titans. Let me see who it was. Hopefully the Giants finally got rid of Steve Slayton, man. Like Darius Slayton, I mean, because Darius Slayton was so trash. Hold on, I'm lagging again, y'all. My bad. Our lads got so many ads, bro. That's why it's tripping off like this. But they have the most up-to-date rosters. Oh, I got a comment from my cousin. Armani says, keep it up. Always learn so much. About to have dinner, but I'll catch it when you post the live. I appreciate you, cuz, man. Appreciate the support. Let me see. I'm looking for the Giants roster. So we got Malik, and they still got him on the roster. They got, Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Calvin Austin, Malachi Fields, Darnell Mooney, Juju, and then they got Odell. So I don't hate that wide receiving core, but I really wish they would get rid of Darius Slayton. He's been on the team for way too long for not doing too much. Maybe I just don't watch enough Giants game, but I don't feel like he's a game changer at the position. So, again, we'll see. I appreciate everybody, tuning in on this live. I'm going to post it. I'm going to cut it up, make clips out of it. Like I said, I just wanted to get on and make sure I talk about, these trades, give my thoughts about my Rams, give the thoughts about, the Patriots and Eagles and what they did, with this trade. And, again, this just adds more optimism and fuel to the NFL fire when you have, a top draw like the Rams, and, making these big blockbuster trades. And then you have a team, a franchise like the Patriots, who historically has been really good, who just came off of a Super Bowl, make a blockbuster move like this. It just, adds fuel to that fire. So, and I'm very excited, for what's about to come this season. Want to make sure that I tune into these teams and watch these teams acutely like I always want to do. So again, appreciate the live, follow my YouTube channel, at EJ Daniels on YouTube, EJ's Table. Follow my TikTok, and like I said, keep showing up. I'm trying to be more consistent on live, and there is no try. You either do it or you don't. So I'm gonna be more consistent on here, talking things. I just got a job, covering the Oregon Ducks. So I'll be on live tomorrow, but I'll be on live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. I'm going live tomorrow for that situation. So, catch some of my Oregon Ducks content. I just got to get all my content and cut it up. I've been posting every day, which has been good, but I want to continuously and consistently be posting. So, I'm going to start cutting up some of my Oregon Ducks content and getting it on here too. So, appreciate y'all, man, and I'll catch y'all on the next live. And y'all have a blessed night.